My name is Jim Campbell. I live and work in finance in New York City. About 5 years ago, my friends and I started a charity, Mission Santa Maria, after I spent some time volunteering in Ecuador. The goal of Mission Santa Maria is to connect donors here in the United States with the good work that the mission organization does down in Ecuador to help as many children as possible. I was working in New York City after college for a few years. I was working in finance, and I had a good job. I was making a decent amount of money for a young person, and I was saving money, and I just knew that this wasn't how everybody in the world lived. I was going to good restaurants. I was going out to nice hotels. I could travel. I could spend money freely with my friends. But somewhere, and actually probably because I had done some traveling beforehand, I knew that 80%, 85% of the world didn't live like I lived. So I just knew the whole time I was working that I wanted to do something else. And I felt like I had unfinished business, so there was still something else I wanted to see or to do while I was young before I got committed to either a family or a long-term career. So I decided to quit my job and spend a few months doing some volunteer work and learning Spanish. And I met somebody my first weekend in Ecuador that told me, hey, if you're looking to do some volunteer work, I just came back from a home for an orphanage that has about 200 children there, and they have some missionaries that take care of these kids. You should go take a look. So the mission had about 250 children at the time living there, and they were either from two situations. One is they were extremely poor, so they could not be with their families because they couldn't feed them, or because they were from terrible family situations and they had to be taken away from their families. So what these women would do is they would take the families and put them in houses, so maybe 30 or 40 boys or 30 or 40 girls living in a house together with one missionary caring for them. And then for little children, they kept the little brothers and sisters together, and they had small houses where the missionaries would care for them and cook for them, wash their clothes. And there was also a mission school where they'd go and go to school every day. So here they are coming from obviously a very difficult situation, but they had, a loving environment. They had at times psychological care. They had food and clothing and education. A lot of the kids that come to the mission at first you can tell they're emotionally scarred, and they're usually sad and everything is new. But after a few weeks, specifically from the love from the missionaries that they show them, they begin to smile again. They play with the other children. They do well in school. They're happy, and that's probably one of the things I think that really touched me most. Is that every child that was there was so happy and appreciative of any time or attention that you paid to them. So every day I was like a rock star coming down, and all the kids would come and greet me and say hello to me. When I came home the first time after 3 months, I decided that I wanted to go back for another period of time. But before I went back, I knew that after seeing the needs of the mission and the needs of the children, that I wanted to raise some money, because it was very simple. They, didn't have enough money to go to school. They didn't have books. They couldn't pay their teachers. They didn't have money for food. So these were very basic things that, especially coming from my situation where I was working the last few years, I knew that I had money and I could probably raise some money to help them with their costs. And I want to say that, not that it was very cheap, because they did have 250 children at the time, but for instance, the cost of sending a child to school was $15 a month. So it wasn't outlandish to think that I could come back home and ask my friends and family for money, that they would be able to give some money and be able to do a substantial amount of good. So when I came home, I decided to start raising some money, and a friend of mine actually gave me the idea. That he said, hey, why don't you start a charity for people in the U.S. who want to give money to the mission, because we always want to give money to a good mission and a good cause, and it sounds like this is a really good story. So why don't you start a charity and we'll give money to it? And so it got me thinking. So after his suggestion, we started the charity, and we began a website where people could donate online and people could also write checks. And so we raised a few $1,000s, and by the time I went down there for the second time, I already raised some money so we could give the missionaries for food, for books, for education. And so I went back for Christmas, and I asked the missionaries, I said, what do the kids need? What can we get them for Christmas? And I was expecting something special, some toys or something nice for the kids just to make them feel good for Christmas. And they said to me, the kids really need towels and underwear. And it kind of hit me. I was kind of taken aback, because here's something very basic that I thought the children already had, but they didn't. So what we did is we went into the city and we bought hundreds of pairs of underwear and towels, and we gave that to them for Christmas. And the kids were so happy that we gave them a few pairs of underwear and a towel, and they were so excited, and they were they said thank you, and they were happy, and the missionaries were so grateful that I thought, here's something very small. We spent maybe $6 on every child to buy them a towel and underwear. That if we can, if there's this much happiness for such a small amount of money, that we can grow this, and we can obviously do more. But there's so many stories. I remember I was down there a few years ago, and we had just started our scholarship program to help poor families as well from the surrounding areas be able to send their children to the mission school, because it was such a good school. And I was walking down the road, and some woman stopped me, and she said, are you Jim? And I said, yes. And she said, I just want to thank you, because we can send our daughter to school, and they said that you're helping us. And I was really taken aback, because I didn't know who this was, but her daughter was one of the children on scholarship. And so I just told her, I said, it's not me, but it's some friends I have in the U.S., and we're happy to help you. And it was such a great thing that here was somebody that, was working hard, was trying to provide something for their family. It didn't have the $15 a month to send their daughter to school, and we helped to do that. So that was something that I was very proud of.
That's cool.
So some of the things that I hear from our donors when they give, the first thing is that they want to give to an organization that they know is going to do some good work. So they see the projects and the things that we do, especially through the scholarships or buying the kids clothes and food, that they really identify with. So they like to give to the organization and see the results from that. We hope that when people learn our story of Mission Santa Maria, that they'll be as passionate as we are about helping these children and their families, so that through their generosity we'll help as many children as possible.